10 reasons why you should hunt with a crossbow. That's this episode of Death by Bunjie. I grew up in the 1980s as a rifle hunter here in northeastern Pennsylvania. That meant trekking through the woods in November and early December with rubber boots on, freezing my feet, freezing to death, and pushing deer out to older people who were sitting on the hedgerows with rifles waiting for the deer to run out in front of them so they could shoot them. Driving deer is a big part of rifle hunting here in Pennsylvania. Not so much now maybe, but over the years it has been a big part of Pennsylvania rifle seasons for deer. Crossbow hunting, on the other hand, is totally different, and it is something that as soon as I picked it up back in 2010, it is something that completely changed the way that I looked at hunting, and it completely changed my life in a lot of ways, and I'm going to make a video about that now and express to you 10 really good reasons why you should consider hunting with a crossbow as well. Now, if you already hunt with a crossbow, you'll still get something out of this video, I am sure. There's lots of neat footage in here, hopefully, and maybe when you watch this video, you'll think, wow, that's a really good reason, and I can incorporate that into my crossbow hunting. The first and best reason, in my opinion, to get into crossbow hunting is to get up close and personal with deer. You will have a whole new respect for these animals when you are looking at them in a very calm state instead of running through the woods, running from all the rifle shots. With a crossbow, you're hunting 10, 20, 30-yard shots. Really, I don't take shots beyond 30 yards. I guess you could shoot 40, 50 yards maybe with a crossbow, but I'm not sure why people would want to do that. In reality, the important thing about crossbow hunting is that you get up close and personal with deer. You can sit in a tree stand and have them walk directly under you without them even knowing that you are there. It's that awesome. I've shot deer at 5 yards, I've shot deer at 30 yards. I've sat in a blind before with deer feeding 5 yards from me. Not something that's easy to do when there are rifle shots going off all over the place. It is more of an archery concept. It's something that only archery people who hunt during the archery seasons, earlier in the seasons when the woods aren't as populated with hunters, only then do the deer really allow you to get that close to them. So that's something to keep in mind, and it's a great reason to get into crossbow hunting. The next reason to get into crossbow hunting is discipline. You have to discipline yourself to practice a little bit, make sure that crossbow is sighted in properly. But when you hunt with archery equipment, because you are so much closer to those deer, you have to be very disciplined about your scent-free regimen. I did another video about that, about what I do to maintain a scent-free regimen as far as going in and out of the woods is concerned. But that part of the discipline of crossbow hunting is something that is imperative. You have to be scent-free going in and out of the woods. It also forces me to be a little more disciplined in other parts of my life. I cut back on caffeine so that I have nice steady hands while I'm out there hunting. That's one thing that takes me a lot of discipline because I really like my coffee, but I try to cut back on that during the hunting seasons. You also have to have the discipline to wait for the right shot. We only take good shots. That was one of my tips to crossbow success. I did a video about that last year. Go watch the Crossbow Tips series. It's a playlist on the Death by Bunjie YouTube channel page. If you go and watch that, if you're into crossbow hunting, you'll learn an awful lot, hopefully. And hopefully you can comment on it and let me know what you think of those videos. But that part of the discipline as well, to hold off on those rush shots, don't rush the shot, wait for the right shot to present itself, takes a lot of discipline, and that's an integral part of crossbow hunting. Now, conversely, another reason to get into crossbow hunting is because you don't have to be as disciplined. If you're moving from the rifle to the crossbow, you got to be a little bit more disciplined in certain areas, like I just said. But if you're moving from a compound bow, more traditional archery equipment, to a crossbow, you'll realize that you don't have to be as disciplined. Now, I have nothing but respect for anybody who can go into the woods with a vertical bow and kill a deer. I think that is tremendous. That's fantastic. It takes so much discipline because you have to practice all the time. You have to practice regularly on a daily basis, shoot hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shots in preparation for going out in the woods. One of the reasons to get into crossbow hunting, and if you're one of those people who just doesn't quite have the time to become proficient with a vertical bow, but wants to enjoy the archery seasons, a great reason to get into crossbow hunting is because when you go out with a crossbow, you don't have to be as disciplined with the crossbow. The crossbow, once it's sighted in, it's very similar to a rifle in the sense that you don't have to spend every day out there in the yard shooting a crossbow. Once it's sighted in, you verify that it's sighted in before you go hunting and you're good to go. I don't shoot the crossbow all that much, to be honest with you. I shoot it as we get prepared in September, in August and September, before I get prepared to start my fall seasons. I'll sight it in, make sure the string's not stretched, all that good stuff, make sure it's still dead on. Once I'm certain and comfortable with the fact that it's dead on, I will put the crossbow away and I get it out, shoot it once or twice. Every time I go hunting, I shoot it every now and then and keep shooting it during the seasons to make sure it's still accurate. But as long as it's accurate, it's just a matter of looking through the scope and putting that arrow where you want to go, making sure you understand your yardages, making sure you're only taking good shots. You do all those things, the crossbow does not require the same level of discipline that the compound bow does. We're all so busy, we got all this stuff going on, and I don't know where people find the time to really become truly proficient with a compound bow. If you do, God bless you, I think that's awesome. But I shudder to think of the number of people who go into the woods with a compound bow who aren't as proficient as they think they are, who haven't spent the preparation time necessary to really become perfect and accurate with that compound bow. And it can be devastating, it can have devastating effects if you make bad shots. So the crossbow eliminates all that. I don't have to spend all those days out in the yard, away from my family, doing whatever. I can just get the crossbow out when I'm ready to hunt, make sure it's still accurate, go out there and shoot myself a deer. The next reason why you should hunt with a crossbow is because you get to be the odd man out. Now, I talked a little bit about the compound bow hunters, the more traditional archery hunters. One of the things that's been broiling over the last several years, it's kind of gone away for the most part now, but for years they resisted the introduction of crossbows because traditional archery was the only thing that should be occupying those archery seasons. They would call this the cross gun. They would call this, it's just a rifle that shoots arrows. Things of that nature. You don't have to worry about that so much anymore, but for years, I was kind of the odd man out because I shot a crossbow and hunted with a crossbow, and the people who were adept at traditional archery equipment resented that. They didn't like the fact that I didn't have to spend all that time practicing. They didn't like that. They didn't want to share the woods with somebody who was really a rifle hunter by nature, by his upbringing, and then share the woods with them now that it's been introduced in the archery seasons. And you still see that up in New York State. They're still fighting over that. Most states have authorized some version of crossbow hunting, and most states now, it's my understanding, have really gotten to the point where it's included completely within the archery season. Pennsylvania, I can hunt with this. Anytime you can hunt with a bow, I can hunt with a crossbow, and that's awesome. I also hunt in Maryland, same deal there. So we're very fortunate in that respect. On that note, I've had comments here recently, some people suggesting to me that, Rich, can you do a video mentioning how people shouldn't be ashamed of hunting with a crossbow? You do hear this an awful lot. People say, well, my shoulder's bothering me now and I can't pull back the compound bow the way I used to, but I still want to hunt with archery equipment, and that's why I use a crossbow. That's a totally good reason to go out there and hunt with a crossbow. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a great reason. But I also don't think we should be ashamed of it in a sense that, hey, I'm going out there and, I have to have an excuse to go out and hunt with a crossbow. You don't need an excuse to hunt with a crossbow. It's awesome. It is a completely legitimate, legal weapon in most places, and as long as it's legal where you're hunting, as long as you're doing the best you can with it, as long as you're sighting it in and making sure it's accurate and you're taking good, clean shots that are presented to you, and as long as you do everything else that's expected of hunters and be a good steward of the land, you have no reason whatsoever to be apologizing for using a crossbow out there during an archery season. I don't apologize for it at all. When I talk to people, even people who are regular bow hunters, I talk to them about how awesome it is to go out there, and I include myself into the conversation, and I include Bunjie in the conversation because it's awesome, and that's just how it is. The number 5 reason why you should hunt with a crossbow is pass-throughs. That's right, pass-throughs. That's what we're all aiming for with archery equipment. If you get an arrow to pass all the way through the deer, you double your chances of finding that deer, in my opinion. Simply because there's 2 holes leaking blood, and you can follow a blood trail that's going to be much more pronounced than if there were only 1 hole hole leaking blood. So that's an important thing. Pass-throughs are very important. How many times have you watched a video of somebody with a compound bow who's shooting a lighter poundage compound bow, and those long arrows that come with those bows, they hit the deer and the deer runs off and the arrow's sticking this far out of the deer and it doesn't even get that much penetration. The crossbow, on the other hand, puts a lot of force behind that arrow, puts a lot of speed behind that arrow, and it's a shorter arrow, much more likely to pass through for that reason. Now I will say this crossbow and any other crossbow on the market is not going to go through a shoulder blade. You may not get a pass through on a bad shot, but with any proper broadside shot on a deer with a crossbow like this, with any legitimate proper crossbow, I think you're going to get a pass through because I think that's just the way it is. I have always had pass throughs on my good shots. Pass throughs are awesome. They are the way to get good shots on deer and the way to get those good blood trails that we're all looking for. And that's one of the great reasons to hunt with a crossbow. The next reason to hunt with a crossbow, and I kind of touched on this before, but it's introspection. Now what does that mean? It just means you get to sit in a tree stand and enjoy nature. You get to think about all the challenges facing you in your personal life, and you get to solve a lot of those challenges right there in nature, the way we were really meant to be. Sit out in nature and solve your problems. It's so peaceful, especially in October. You're sitting out in a tree stand or sitting in a blind, just listening to the sounds of nature all around you. You don't have to listen to people on their motorcycles up the road here or anything like that. You can probably hear that in the background, but you don't have to necessarily listen to hunters with rifle shots going off. You aren't sharing the woods with everybody and their brother typically, although if they are there, they're also being much more quiet, so you're not being bothered by them. You get to enjoy nature at its finest if you're hunting during an archery season, and that's one of the things that I love about it the most. Even in the later seasons, if I'm sitting in a blind, I'm just sitting there looking out over the food plot, whatever I'm doing, I get to enjoy nature. Rifle hunting, when I was growing up, like I said, a lot of that here in Pennsylvania involves driving deer. So we'd go out and hunt with 10, 15 other people, and you're pushing deer, and everything's high action, and you're walking all the time. I love that, and I appreciate having done it. But to me, there's no substitute for being out there and enjoying the woods by myself. Being able to think about my own things, not necessarily have to have conversations. I have conversations with various people all day long at work, and the chance to get some alone time with a crossbow out there in a blind or in a tree stand, that's priceless. But you can still share your outdoor adventures with the rest of the world, with your friends and family. And that brings me to number 7. One of the reasons that crossbows are awesome and why you should get into crossbow hunting is that it's perfect for filming. When I'm out in the woods and I am crossbow hunting, if I'm sitting in a blind, I can set the camera next to me on a tripod and hunt with that camera right next to me, and I got a great picture. I've gotten some of my favorite footage of the outdoors sitting in a blind. Tree stands are the same thing. I post a little video about a tree stand clamp that I made, a little thing that I designed, and there's a variety of other things on the market, but you can put that camera right next to you in a tree stand. It's very easy to do. If the crossbow's already cocked, it's sitting on your lap, it's ready to go, the arrow's in it, you don't have to worry too much about moving that camera around. It doesn't interfere with the aiming of the crossbow and all the other work. Crossbows lend themselves very well to filming also because you can mount a little GoPro right on the scope. I did videos about that as well. There's any number of ways to enjoy crossbow hunting and share it with other people by filming your outdoor adventures. Crossbows are great for filming in the outdoors. We're winding down this video to the number 8, 9, and 10 reasons why you should hunt with a crossbow. The number 8 reason is because you get to enjoy earlier seasons. Like I mentioned before, growing up, I'm wandering around the woods with all the older people there pushing deer to them. I'm walking with rubber boots on. I didn't have anywhere near the amount of insulated clothing on that was necessary to walk around in Pennsylvania in November and December. I loved it. I wouldn't have changed it for the world, but boy, is it nice to sit out in October in northeastern Pennsylvania instead. Some of the leaves are still on the trees. You can watch them change throughout the October season. And you can sit in that blind, you can sit in a tree stand with maybe a jacket on, but sometimes you don't even need a jacket. You can't beat it. And the number 9 reason why you should hunt with a crossbow is later seasons. At least here in Pennsylvania, the day after Christmas, my daughter and I usually go out and we sit in a blind and we hunt in the late season. That's awesome. As a rifle hunter, you can't hunt in the late season. It is a flintlock season only. but we can hunt with archery equipment. The crossbow is welcome in that later season. Even though I can only sit for shorter periods of time during those later seasons, I still enjoy and appreciate it a great deal. It's a great time to go sit in a blind and enjoy some cold weather, maybe a little bit of coffee in a thermos, and just enjoy that late season. And the number 10 reason you should hunt with a crossbow is everything in between those October early seasons and those January late seasons. And what I'm talking about there, at least in northeastern Pennsylvania, is the rifle season. Check the regulations where you are, where you hunt, but in Pennsylvania, I can hunt straight through the rifle season with my crossbow, and I in fact do hunt during the rifle season with my crossbow. Typically what I'm doing is enjoying all the shots going off on the neighbors, making sure that there's no trespassers or anything like that on the property. So I sit out for that reason. But also I see deer. I sit quietly in a tree stand and let those deer get pushed from the neighbor's property right across our property. If the deer don't know I'm there, they're safe. They can bed down and they can hang out on our property on this place, and they don't even get pressured to go somewhere else, and it decreases the likelihood they're going to get shot on the neighbor's property. By the same token, however, if a shot presents itself and I'm ready to take a shot, I will do that. So it's a great weapon because then you can increase your level of proficiency with it. The more you hunt with one weapon, the more time you spend with that weapon, the more likely you are to get good at it. That's my philosophy. And that's why I hunt now, as I've said before, almost exclusively with the crossbow. Well, if you hunt with a crossbow, chances are you've already thought about a lot of these great reasons, but let me know in the comments below if there are other great reasons to hunt with a crossbow as well. I would love to encourage people to enjoy the crossbow, love to encourage more hunters to start enjoying and appreciating this outdoor lifestyle. Please leave me a comment. Make sure you subscribe for future videos. This summer I'm going to be doing a lot more crossbow videos, but don't hesitate to go check out the ones we've already done here on Death by Bunjie on the YouTube channel page. Check those out. Like the Facebook page too for regular updates around here. And until next time, all hail Bunjie!
Second state is number one in my